How do organizations change? This is the really difficult question that children want to know about. Yeah? Believe me? Okay. It's also one of the hardest questions to answer. So, how do organizations change? When a consultant and a client really want an organization to change, they get together, think really hard, and make a wish. And 2 years later, after some magic has happened, a new organization pops out fully formed. Anybody believe that? No, I didn't think so. No. Because, and we know why that is, we know that change isn't always easy. Change isn't always easy because it's not always easy to understand the requirements for change. Change isn't always easy because you don't always know what has to be preserved. And change isn't always easy because you don't know which structures you have to keep with you. And finally, it's not always easy because you don't always know how to get there. Now, I want to give you a really heartfelt apology at this point, because you'll have noticed that the UK, the United Kingdom, is going through a really tough time. It's madness what we're doing. It's madness trying to leave the European Union. And it keeps me awake at night. Literally, I lie awake at night worrying about the state of the United Kingdom and what we're actually trying to do. So, on behalf of the United Kingdom, I would like to apologize to you and believe you, it's not you, it's us. In 5 years' time, if I get invited back to this conference, I hope we can sit down together and laugh about the madness and just brush it off as something that happened momentarily before we all got together and worked together as a great continent again. All I can say is that every country has had its periods of madness, and this is just one for the UK. This is what we were asked to decide on. This is how easy it was to understand whether the UK wanted to change or not. And I believe the phrase at the top, although I don't speak Spanish says, if wishing made it so. So 17 million people in the UK wished to leave the European Union. And all they had to do was to put a little cross in the box. And that got us to this point. So we had the UK is currently in the European Union, and 17.3 million people wanted us to be outside the European Union. How hard can that be? Well, what you need to do to get from one to the other, of course, is to find a change path. A path that takes you from within to without. And of course we know that having this goal state of being out is much more difficult, is much easier than having a change path which takes us from in to out. And it's the same with organizations. If you know what your organization wants to be, even if you know where it is, it's really difficult to find out how to get there. It's not enough to wish your organization to change. Here's the current state of an organization. This organization, made up by the way, it's called Dolce Deli. It's an Italian firm selling Italian delicacies, perhaps in Spain, who knows. And they had sales of £2 million this year. Direct costs £500, you can work down the same. The net profit they got was £500,000, which isn't bad. But of course, they want to be better. They want a different goal state. So what they would like to do is, instead of sales of only 2,000 in 2019, what they want is sales of 2.5 million in 2020. Sorry, the 2020 has been left off. The figures are there, but just like Brexit, it's not possible to determine how to change having only your current state and your goal state. Organizations often turn to consultants to find out how to get that change path from current state to goal state. And this leads us to something that I'm going to call the consultant paradox. The consultant paradox is something that all organizations face at some time. Consultant paradox says we have a goal state. If we don't, then we can't change. So we can't change if we don't know where we want to be. But even if you have a goal state, you can't make the change because you don't know what the first step you have to do is. Having the goal state isn't sufficient to make a change. And this brings in the consultant, because consultants know what to do. Senior management say, we know where we want to be, we have our goal state, we have loads and loads of money, but we don't like taking risks because we don't want to damage the organization. We can afford the best, but we have to get it right first time. We want one big step from the organization to where it wants to be. So we're going to look around for the right consultants. And they get some consultants in. You may have done this yourselves. You've asked consultants what they can do for you. I see some people nodding, so yes, you certainly know what to do yourselves. And the consultants come in and they say, yes, we can do this for you. Trust us. And they're going to charge you an awful lot of money. I know one organization that was paying £1 million a month to pay consultants to come in to tell them how to change. So this is a lucrative trade that the organizations are doing. So let's get the organizations, let's get the consultants in. So what do consultants do? The consultants won't guarantee the goal state. They won't get you all the way to your new organization. All they'll do for you is design a new organization. They will tell you what you have to do to get yourself to the new organization. They're not going to make that change for you. And you know why they can't make that change for you? Because they don't know your organization as well as you do. And they don't have the people located in the organization which are going to make that change. So they're going to send in a team of senior consultants charging £10,000 a day, and they're going to get to a point where their models for your organization fit, and from that point they're going to send an even bigger army of junior consultants in, and those junior consultants are going to work out how to fit those models to your organization so that you get a design for your new organization. What do their models look like? Well, you know what their models look like. They have models of finance, profit and loss, balance sheet, cash flow. They have market indications. They have SWOT analyses, market sensing, Maslow's hierarchy. They have millions and millions of models. They have models for risks. They have risk appetite, threat source and vulnerability analysis. They have business strategies, and this is where the richest form of model is. They have mission, objectives, strategies and tactics. They have PESTLE, which is political, economic, socio-technical, something and something else. I got to remember what the something. And they have the CDF, competitive strategy, and they're going to throw these models at you, and they're going to try and fit them to your organization. Will there be success? Well, unfortunately, certain authors suggest that 65% of changes fail. They don't deliver anything. Most of the rest of change programs deliver over budget, or they don't deliver all the benefits. So in a very, very small percentage of cases do you get successful change in organizations through consulting. That's a horrid statistic. We have to do better. I think business analytics, I think information systems and technology can do better than that. In the early 2010s, we started seeing a phrase, transforming data into actionable business insight coming through consultancies. This is from Alarin, which are a big consultancy, and although they're not always grammatical, I think that should be recognition rather than recognition. As long as they're not always grammatical, they're talking about how data can produce actionable business insight. Now, what's actionable business insight? These are the things that are going to take us from where we want to be, from where we are, sorry. These are the things that are going to take us from where we are to where we want to be. And that's going to give us a place to add in business analytics. I haven't managed to trace the original source of that transforming data into actionable business insight. Perhaps one of you knew where it came from. Obviously before 2010, but I don't know where it comes from. I'd love to know where it came from. You can imagine why transforming data into actionable business insight makes the heart of any business person race. Because now they see how to turn the design for the new organization into the organization that they want. And indeed, business analytics is enabled by organizations which have been instrumented properly and by technological advances. And that's some of the key and core topics of this conference. Some people will argue that, I don't know if you know of a big high street retailer in the UK called JD Sports, yeah? They're using IBM Business Analytics. IBM Business Analytics, here we go. What's that phrase? Insight into action. IBM are using that phrase as well. And this is what they're promising from their business analytics. This is what some people say is core to JD Sports' success. Planning, budget, forecasting, compelling data visualizations, pattern detection and predictive capabilities, natural language capabilities, reporting and managed self-service capabilities, cloud deployment. Don't know what cloud deployment is doing there, but that's what they promise. Now, those topics are core to this conference. There are papers in each of those things in this conference through the years. This conference is key to the future of organizations. However, and it's not because of the conference that however happens, it's because of something else. Seddon et al. Pointed out that there are barriers to using business analytics in organizations, really big barriers. And those big barriers are, there's a lack of method to do so, and there are a lack of skills. Now for me, methods and skills exist within the organization itself. Those are the only people who know enough about the organization and know enough about the methods of the organization to be able to apply them. So this is really saying that with business analytics, the day of the generalist consultant is over. Consultants only get us part of the way across the journey. We need new ways of thinking about how to get all the way through. So I'm going to talk now a little bit about business analytics-led change. And we're going to try and solve that consultant paradox by looking at new organizational models and new ways of thinking about the path from now to the future that help us get there more easily. It's still not going to be easy, but perhaps there's a way through. So, to solve the consultant paradox and to give true business analytics-led change, we need a new method to combine the traditional organizational models, those financial models that we saw earlier, and business analytics, actionable business insight, with organizational skills and methods and understanding to change the modern complex organization. The next few slides are going to present a possible model, possible candidate framework for doing this in. It's based on new problem-based models of organizations that Lucia and I have developed over more than 15 years of looking in this area. And it's been validated not in business analytics, but in other areas in many large organizations, including BAE Systems, Bank of America, the Open University, which is my university, and other ones as well. So, we need to look again at organizations. So, let's have a look at an organization. I want to distinguish 3 types of organization: simple, moderately complex, and massively complex. The first type is the simplest. And what this organization does is it solves, as its business model, the same thing over and over again. So it has a problem, and it takes that through to solution, and it does it over and over again. This is the model that consultants use to solve an organization's problems. They know how to do it, or they think they know how to do it. They're going to take the business problem, they're going to produce a business solution, and they're going to charge you an awful lot of money for it. They think they're good, so they can charge a lot. But it's a very simple business model. The second business model, and this is going to make your eyes go funny, I apologize for that, is more complex. Oh dear, I won't watch that. This time it solves more than one problem in a complex application area, but in a relatively calm context. So there's not a lot of change out there. This might be a retail model, where not only do you have to sell to your customers, but you need to understand the fashions and things which are going to make that market change over time. Although the problem can change, it changes very slowly. Now, this model is going to make you really sick. So, this is your typical tangled mess of an organization. All those things that you see, the business processes or people or technologies or policy or whatever, all there to solve problems. This is government. This is large organizations. This is your university. Well, actually, is it your university? Who thinks their university looks like this in terms of problem solving? Anybody think their university is like that? Anybody think it's like this? Who thinks their university acts like this? Oh, so not so many really. Come on, be honest. Who thinks your organization, your university looks like this? Come on, put your hand up. Yeah, I thought as much. They're really complex organizations. Why are they so complex? They're so complex because everything they do is designed to solve a problem. They have business processes which take, in the case of a university, to take a student through to a graduate. They have a business process that allows them to change the curriculum as topics change. They have a business process that does, I don't know, make sure that the toilets work. Go back to the other slide. They have appointments of people in universities that are there to solve problems. We need a new course teaching. Let's appoint somebody to do that. That's a solution to a problem. When an information system is commissioned, it's to solve a problem. We need a new way. We have twice as many students this year. How are we going to administer them all? We're going to do it by buying a new information system. I don't know if you realize, I don't know if you were here yesterday, but there was a really big storm. And outside there on the lawn, there were people cutting the grass to make this hotel look as pretty as it could for you today. That was a solution to a business problem. It's not accidental that that happened. Everything big organizations do is to solve problems. And those problems are not independent of each other. They tangle together in massively complex ways. So, our model of an organization is simple. An organization is a tangled collection of solutions to the problems it has faced. And if that's the case, then it's obvious that the future of the organization are the problems that it has still to face. Solutions to problems it has still to face. And change is then making up solutions to those new problems that it faces and inserting them carefully to preserve the mess of the organization. So we're going to tease some of these business processes out. We're going to pull this red thread and we're going to dangle it over here. And we're going to change it. And we're going to change it in a way so that we can reinsert it so it doesn't disturb the rest of the organization. It's complex. Why do solutions that share phenomena complicate things? Well, I don't know if you know, but this is the bridge leading to La Toja. Is that the way to pronounce it?
Yeah.
This is the bridge leading to La Toja, and it's a road which goes straight over. There's a little security lodge here, which is really quite curious, and there are people in there with guns. I don't know why.
Because it's a private island.
It's a private island. We're on a private island. Okay, so little security lodge here. But this is a road that goes straight over another road, which is the tangentiale, or we call it in Italy, the tangential, which goes across. If they didn't intersect, you wouldn't need the roundabout. The sharing of the phenomena around here, the sharing the fact that a car can come along here and a car can come along here, means that on this roundabout they can crash, so you need to manage that. That's why sharing phenomena between solutions is complex, because you need to manage where those solutions interact. And one of the problems you find in organizations where you have this complex mess of solutions is that you can't divide and conquer when you come to problems. Why not? You can't divide and conquer because those shared phenomena express constraints between the problem. And those constraints, if you divide the problem into two, those constraints are lost. And if you lose those constraints, you can't expect the solutions that you find to those divided problems to recompose back to a solution for the original problem. And so we have to be careful when we talk about the problem-solving process. We can't think to get from your current state to your target state. We can't think about this big arrow as a single thing. We have to break it down carefully into sub-problems, but respecting the fact that those sub-problems interact. And that's our first principle for data and business analytics in problem solving, is that the data have to be as tangled as the organization's problem. They have to represent that tangle accurately so that when you decompose the problem, you can get solutions that recompose. And that gives us this little picture. So if we want data, if we want business analytics to drive the problem-solving process, it should allow us to understand the problems as tangled entities. Second thing is complexity. We know this organization is complex. Complex, tangled web of solutions to problems. But shared phenomena is not the only source of complexity. Complexity also comes from the fact that you've got tens, hundreds, thousands, maybe tens of thousands of stakeholders, each of which have a view of that organization's problem, and each of which want to be respected in having that view. You've got customers and suppliers, you've got students and parents, you've got governments and regulators, you've got IT suppliers and estates, you've got everyone. And so to be good, data must be resolved. If you want data to help you, that data has to relate to those stakeholders' concerns. And then we have knowledge complexity, because organizations are knowledge entities. They work with knowledge. And there's a massively complex knowledge domain out there that they work in. When a new fashion comes, they have to understand that fashion to be able to insert it within that organization, to use it most productively. And so for data to be useful, it must help in driving the organization forward by relating to that knowledge. The data and the knowledge have to be related. Third source of complexity is technological complexity. So we're going to we're going to change our database. We're going to get a new technology. We're going to use AI in something. How can we use AI in something if we don't understand the problems the organization faces? And that organizational understanding is expressed through the data. Therefore, the data and the technologies that we wish to use have to be related in some way. How to use the technologies needs to come through the data. So our second principle for business analytics-led change is that data are as complex as an organization's problem. And that gives us this little picture. So we've added now to the previous thing. Data is driving change only if the data addresses social, knowledge, and technical complexity. The last thing I'm going to talk about this morning is volatility. And this is truly one of the most difficult modern problems that organizations face. The fact that even if they stay still, their context is moving increasingly quickly. And this is what happens. So a complex organization will change in response to the problems it faces in its environment. As the environment changes, the organization has to change with it. Otherwise, it will get left behind. For a mature organization, preserving the purpose of the organization within a changing environment is key to survival. Because if you don't change and your organization changes, you lose your purpose. If data are to help an organization respond to its environment, then they must do three things. They must put the seesaw into balance so that the organization is stable within its current context. So the data has to describe the current state of the organization. That's one requirement for the data. The second thing is that the data must allow the ways in which the context must change to be described. So the data for the inside of the organization has to be relatable to the data outside the organization. Because if you don't know how the environment is changing and how that's changing your organization, how can you relate the two? So the data has to relate those two things. And the third thing that the data must do, and this is the most important thing, is to allow the organization to predict the ways in which the environment will change, so that we are not responsive to change, we're proactive in our ability to change as an organization. And a balanced, adaptive and proactive organization with the data that describes them are the best sort of organization. And this gives us our third and last principle, in that the principle of data volatility, and that data must relate to the organization's context. What does this mean for data? If the only data we have represents the organization, then all we can do is track how the organization changes in response to change, to a volatile context. As the context changes, we must look at the context phenomena as often as we can and see how the change there is driving the organization. And this means that the process of problem solving is iterative, always tracking the environment. Data, iteration, tracking the environment. Accordingly, business analytics must be iterative too, so that the environmental insights that it provides can influence organizational problem solving. And this leads us to our last picture, which is a model of iterative business analytics-led organizational change. Just finishing off. Observation we want to make is that for effective business analytics, the phenomenological link between data and problems is critical. So with that thought, I'll leave it up to you. Anyone have any questions?
Thank you.
Gentlemen halfway down.